Execution, Season 1, Episode 26 of The Twilight Zone, that features the Professor. Plain the Professor. Mannion is the professor from Gilligan's Island. Come on. In 98 episodes of Gilligan's Island, did him and Marianne have a little side fling? Why was he always defending her all the time? Which one would you choose, Ginger or Marianne? Or Mrs. Howe, if that's your thing. I like how she never gets thrown in the conversation of who's the most attractive. So ageist. He's in this episode, and he has created a time travel machine. But it's still in the early beta phase. And he is able to pluck someone out of the past, seemingly randomly. He ends up getting this guy, Joe Caswell, who's about to be hanged for his crimes because he's a mass murderer. So it seems like Mr. Professor is shaking some coconuts together and sawing a few cactuses to make this time machine, because he picks the worst person you could ever pick, bring back to 1960. Since Joe Caswell, the mass murderer, is from 1880, when he's brought into 1960, he is amazed by all the great technology they have. They have cars, they have telephones. I feel like they should have chosen someone from like more in the past, like choose someone from like the 1500s or 1600s, because 1880s, well, of course they didn't have cars back then. I mean, they did have stuff that looked like this. This is from 1885. That's kind of a car, a little bit. And of course they had trains. But either way, Joe Caswell is very, very scared by this new world that he's been put into. And Professor Minion should have really thought this through. Like, don't just pluck someone out of the past randomly. Maybe try to get someone from last year to be transported. But either way, it works for the story. Joe Caswell immediately starts beating up the professor. And the fight scenes in this episode are really great. Look at the way he punches his head. Is that a stunt actor? Is that the professor himself doing these backflips and falling on these tables? When I watched this episode, I actually didn't look at who wrote it. And somehow I missed it in the credits. But when I looked on the internet, something they didn't have in 1960 or 1880, I found that it was written by George Clayton Johnson. He did episode 13, The Four of Us Are Dying. And we'll do 7 episodes in total, including the pool episode. And yeah, his style is quite different than Rod Serling. I mean, this is a very violent, for its time, episode. There's a lot of fight scenes. There's a lot of things being smashed and beaten. And I'm completely here for it. And it does seem like towards the later end of season 1, we're getting a lot more episodes not written by Rod Serling. But they do a great job of picking people that actually know what they're doing. George Clayton also wrote Logan's Run, which is a super underrated movie and needs to be remade because it's such a great story. But some of the effects hold it back. About this futuristic world where you can't live above the age of 30 because they kill you. So this guy Joe Caswell goes into the street. He hears all the loud noises and gets very annoyed. Though, like I said, in the 1880s they did have trains. I mean, those would be super loud back then. I guess being dropped into this New York City would be pretty jarring. And he just goes around smashing things. It's kind of funny. You can just tell they're just having fun with him just beating things up. He goes into a bar, smashes the karaoke machine, says, "What is this? Witchery?" Threatens the bartender, pulls a gun on him, shoots the TV that's right above him. He then goes to a payphone. He gets very, very confused. It starts ringing. He tries to answer it. Jumps out of this phone booth, smashing through the glass for some reason. Shoots someone in a car randomly. This episode is random. And then we get a great twist ending where he goes back to where he started, where this time machine is, where the professor is. And it seems like he's killed the professor. I mean, it didn't really seem like he was dead. He punched him, but the professor never gets back up again. So we can just assume he actually died at the beginning of this episode from these punches and kicks. And we get a grim twist, but not exactly the one you expect. You go, okay, this is a bad guy. He's a mass murderer. He's going to get his comeuppance. But there's also other bad guys. So when Caswell, mass murderer, goes back to this laboratory to look for some other things to get him back to his time, the place gets robbed by another robber. So now they get 2 robbers coming at each other. This guy's name is Johnson. And we see them fight, because of course there has to be another fight scene. And like I said, I'm actually enjoying this. Not too much psychological horror here. They're going for smashing and burning. And Caswell ends up losing the fight to this new robber. We have a death toll of like 4 people in this episode already. And while this robber named Paul Johnson is looking for anything that he can steal from this laboratory, he accidentally locks himself in this time machine, gets transported back in time, and now he's the person that was being hanged. Initially in 1880, where the episode started, Joe Caswell, the mass murderer, was being hanged. And then right as the noose was going around his neck, he was transported to 1960. Now this guy, Paul Johnson, the new robber, is now being hanged in 1880. And this is a grim twist, but it's actually warranted. Don't feel bad for the professor. Maybe he'll wake up with like a hangover. After all, in a few years, he has to go on a 3-hour tour. So I'm going to give Execution an 8 out of 10. It was an enjoyable episode. It's really fun. The twist at the end was unexpected because you don't expect some other person to start robbing the place. I figured what would happen is Caswell would accidentally lock himself in this time machine and then be transported back to when he was being hanged. Though it wasn't exactly clear what his plan was. It seemed like he wanted to go back in time, but would he be smart enough to know if he puts himself in this time machine that he's just going to be right back in time where they're hanging him? Would he be able to figure that out? Probably not. This guy shoots TVs and doesn't even like a nice swinging 60s tune on the jukebox. He has to shoot that too. Yeah, he shoots everything. Albert Salmi played Joe Caswell, the mass murderer. He had a great career, starring Caddyshack as Mr. Noonan, Dragon Slayer, and one of the multiple people we've seen in Escape from Planet of the Apes. And I wasn't sure about his character at first. He didn't seem mean enough, but wow, does he get mean throughout this episode. So he just has a bit of a baby face to him. The next episode in our journey to review every single episode of The Twilight Zone is episode 27, The Big Tall Wish, about boxing. And check out our playlist for the other series that we've covered: Black Mirror, Cowboy Bebop, Mystery Science Theater 3000, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Twilight Zone, Monsters Fear Itself. We do every single episode. Thank you.